Lift Fit Podcast, episode 63, A Woman's Side of Weightlifting with Coach Bridget Raach.
I think CrossFit has strayed far from its roots. I think CrossFit is a very good tool that can be used for great result, to great effect in the right hands. But CrossFit as a tool, I liken it as an analogy to if a Ferrari cost $10,000, then every 16-year-old boy would have one. A Ferrari would be regarded as the most dangerous car on the road. I would tell her she doesn't need to worry that if bulking up was as easy as lifting a weight, then every 16-year-old boy would look like the Hulk. They have testosterone in their bodies. Women don't have the hormone testosterone. We have estrogen. Everybody should have muscle mass. It's healthy for your body. You can process protein better. Every hormone in your body works better when you have enough muscle mass.
You're listening to the Live Fit Podcast with Glenn Johnson. Here, we'll talk about all things related to good health, fitness, food, fat loss, and the mind-body connection.
Yes, it is time once again for the Live Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Johnson. Thank you for listening. This is episode 63. Today, I'm speaking with a really good friend of mine, Bridget Raach. Some of you may remember Bridget from episode 2, in which she spoke a lot about CrossFit. She will a little bit today too, but in a completely different way. She will also speak about her recent experience at a training camp with the International Olympic Committee. And the impetus for her being on today's show is to discuss women and resistance training and how necessary it is. Bridget and I go way back. We used to work together, we became friends, and one summer she joined my crew of 3 to help me compete in the 500-mile race across Oregon. She was the only athlete on the crew, and because of this, she was able to be intuitive and very understanding as to what I was going through. She also knew what to do and what to say to keep me on the bicycle moving forward. Bridget is truly a phenomenal coach. I've seen her in action both with myself and with weightlifters and in CrossFit. She's truly amazing. Let's hear from Bridget what she's been up to lately and what she thinks about women and weightlifting. Hi, Bridget. How are you doing? It's great to have you back on the show again.
Thanks, Glenn. I'm happy to be back.
You know, for those of you who haven't listened to your first episode back in, episode 2, I believe it was, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I am an instructor at Clark College, a community college in Southwest Washington. I'm a strength coach and a weightlifting coach. The sport of weightlifting, which is, it's not weight training. It's not what you do in the gym to get swole. It's an Olympic sport.
What is different about this Olympic sport compared to what most people do in the gym?
The gym would be working out, and maybe you're getting stronger or more fit for life or for a specific sport. Weightlifting is a specific sport. It's one word, weightlifting, and it is a specific sport that's contested regionally and locally and at the Olympic level.
Now, what is weightlifting as 2 words?
That's when you go to the gym and get swole. That's
gotcha.
Lifting weights.
So let's before we go into that, I really am dying to ask you about 1,000 questions right now. But can you give us a little bit of your background? Your name's Bridget Raach. We know what you're currently doing, but maybe give us a history on how you got to where you are now. Let's not start at birth, but maybe you used to do something with volleyball?
You know me well. I was going to start at birth. I played volleyball in high school in Southern California, and I had a great experience, but I didn't have much direction given from my coaches. So I'm not quite 5 feet tall, so I didn't think that volleyball at the collegiate level was going to be an option for me. But I thought I'd just go to community college first and see if I could play on their team. So I did. I went to community college at LA Pierce College and played for 2 years there. Then figured I would hang up my volleyball shoes and just go on with academics. I went to UC Santa Barbara and was actually able to walk on to the volleyball team then and played with them too at the Division I level.
Wow. So even being under 5 foot tall, you were still pretty good.
I was quick enough to make an impression.
Nice.
Then I've just been competitive in anything athletic. I've enjoyed it my whole life. I spent time competing in Shotokan karate and horseback riding and tennis and triathlon. Really loved open water swimming. Was doing some triathlon, which led me into weightlifting, which also introduced me to CrossFit. Then I became a coach.
Yeah, last time I had you on here, we talked about CrossFit quite a bit. You are a certified CrossFit coach, am I correct?
I have been, yes.
Not currently.
Not currently.
And you're not currently doing CrossFit, correct?
I'm not really sure how to define what you mean by doing CrossFit.
Are you coaching CrossFit?
Not right now.
Are you doing CrossFit workouts on your own?
Sometimes, yes. CrossFitters, people who would identify as CrossFitters, sometimes don't realize that CrossFit movements, things they attribute to CrossFit, have actually been around in strength and conditioning since the beginning of time.
Right.
So I do strength and conditioning workouts, and sometimes I do strength and conditioning workouts at a high intensity, but I don't know that it would be called CrossFit or not.
Gotcha. Now, the other day we were talking on the phone, and I asked you what you're doing with CrossFit these days and what you thought of it, and you gave me an answer that was a little bit surprising. What do you think of CrossFit these days?
I think CrossFit has strayed far from its roots. I think CrossFit is a very good tool that can be used for great result, to great effect in the right hands. I think CrossFit as a sport, it's a different direction. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about CrossFit as a sport, but CrossFit as a tool, I liken it as an analogy to if a Ferrari cost $10,000, then every 16-year-old boy would have one. A Ferrari would be regarded as the most dangerous car on the road. But Ferraris cost $100,000, and so those who have them are more reasonable, more experienced drivers. CrossFit's the same. It's a very potent tool, and in the hands of someone who is less experienced, it becomes a dangerous tool.
That was really well said, and you told me the very same thing a few days ago when we spoke, and I have said it to a few other people, and their eyes kind of lit up and went, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Good.
That makes a lot more sense. I went one further. I said, if every 16-year-old boy had a Ferrari, we would have half as many 16-year-old boys in this country.
Very true.
Because it's a lot of car, it's hard to handle, it takes a lot of experience, and that's the same thing with CrossFit. It's a great workout if done right. And one of my problems with it has been the competitive nature. Now, I am a competitive person, but it also lends itself well to shortcuts. Shortcutting your form. You cannot sacrifice form. And that's what I teach my clients and my students. Above everything else, you do not sacrifice form no matter what.
Yes.
And that's what happens, from what I've seen with CrossFit, is when people get hurt, it's because they were not following their form. They were looking at time.
Agreed. And that's why I say that CrossFit has strayed far. Maybe not CrossFit. People have taken CrossFit far from its roots, because virtuosity, meaning doing the common uncommonly well, is a basic tenet of the original CrossFit. Mechanics, followed by consistency, followed by intensity. You have to move right once before you can move right 3 times, before you can move right really fast or really heavy. That's very, very basic CrossFit mantra. And the sport of CrossFit has come away from that, and it rewards those who do the most or the fastest, maybe not the best for their own bodies, their own athletic abilities.
It also brings in a lot of newbies who have not worked their way up the ladder of strength and conditioning like they need to do CrossFit. And so they jump in, and, there's there's rhabdo, which is a big problem, and there's people that do it once or twice and they can't walk the next day and they never come back. So it's kind of a, shooting yourself in the foot to start off with CrossFit. You need to establish a good foundation for your fitness before you can do something like that.
I would vehemently disagree. In the hands of a good coach, anyone should be able to go to a CrossFit with a good, knowledgeable, experienced coach and start CrossFitting, in quotations, right away. Mm-hmm. Again, a basic of CrossFit is that it's ultimately modifiable. So the grandma can be next to the Navy SEAL, can be next to the 13-year-old girl with one arm, and they can be doing a very similar workout, but each modified to a level that's appropriate for them, a level of intensity appropriate for them.
Good to hear. So the main reason I wanted to bring you on today, Bridget, is because we were in a conversation about women's apprehension or avoidance of resistance training. And I was telling you that I was speaking with a woman who was, let's just say, not in great shape. And she was lifting a weight that was equal to a 2-pound dumbbell on a bicep curl, which is barely even challenging for my 8-year-old son.
Right.
And I told her she needs to lift a little bit more. She needs to feel the resistance. And she said to me, she doesn't want to bulk up.
All right.
After I took a deep breath and tried to decide how to best explain this to her, I think I got through to her a little bit, but she still didn't seem to own it, let's say. She wanted to agree with me because I was trying to teach her something and trying to help her, but she didn't believe it because she's heard from countless other people that it's just the opposite. And I don't know who these other people are, but it seems to be the going knowledge in the gym that women shouldn't lift very heavy because they will end up looking masculine. So you are a woman, and I don't think you look masculine.
Thank you.
You've lifted a few weights before.
Right.
So what would you say to a woman? If you were in my shoes and a woman told you that, what would you say to her?
I would tell her she doesn't need to worry that... Here we go to a 16-year-old boy analogy. If bulking up was as easy as lifting a weight, then every 16-year-old boy would look like the Hulk. As soon as young men hit puberty and discover girls, it seems commonly they want to have big arms and a big chest, and they spend time trying to get it, and they're not able to. They have testosterone in their bodies. Women don't have the hormone testosterone. We have estrogen. We have a little bit of testosterone, but not nearly enough to cause us to get bulky muscles. Some women do get bulky muscles, and it's just a genetic thing. If you want to avoid bulky muscles, look at your mom and dad. See how they're shaped? Everybody should have muscle mass. It's healthy for your body. You can process protein better. Every hormone in your body works better when you have enough muscle mass. You can live with too much fat mass. You cannot live with not enough muscle mass. That's when people die, when they don't have enough muscle.
You are listening to the Live Fit podcast. You can find more information about this episode, plus Live Fit's weight loss, health improvement programs, and coaching at livefitpodcast.com. See you there. There are different body types. I'm glad you brought that up, even with guys. And when I was in college, I took a weight training class and became friends with one guy. And we were workout buddies. We would work out during class and other days. So we were working out probably 4 days a week. And this guy had a different body type than me. We were lifting the exact same amount of weight, the same reps, the same sets, the same frequency. I got larger. He didn't.
Right.
He got stronger, and you could see some definition forming, but his chest was essentially the same size as it was a year before that. Essentially, it got a little bit larger, but mine, grew 6 inches or something. It was a tremendous transformation, and he was really ticked off about it, but he was just as strong as me, complete equal strength. And I know women are like that too, except more are like him than like me.
Right. Yeah. We don't have the testosterone, and without a lot of messing around, we won't grow the muscles that men can.
Yeah, and that's something women are, I don't know if they don't understand it or they don't want to. There seems to be a resistance in believing this. And it's kind of this phenomena that we're experiencing these days with the internet and Facebook and blogs and all the different ways that people are getting their information. You tend to believe what you want to believe, I guess. Right. And lifting a heavy weight is harder than lifting a light weight. So it's easy to believe that lifting the easier one is better because it's less painful.
Right. It depends what your goals are.
It does. So if your goals are to reduce body fat, what would you do?
I would have that person be staying, well, it depends also where they are in their journey. If they're overweight and untrained, they should be starting with muscular endurance, which would be lighter weights, not too light, but lighter, something you can move 12 times, moving it more often, repeatedly. If they're further along in their strength journey, they're changing their body composition, not necessarily wanting to lose fat, but change body composition, put on more muscle. Then they need to move heavier weights fewer times.
So can you give me some numbers so for the people listening who can have something a little more concrete to go by? So let's take your beginner who has no recent weightlifting experience, maybe none at all, but at least nothing recently. So they're detrained. They have a little more body fat than they want to have, and they want to get into shape and change their physique, change their body composition, and look good. What can you tell them that they could know without hiring a personal trainer? How much is enough weight?
Good. Well, let's assume they're going to a commercialized gym with selectorized equipment, meaning they sit in a seat and they select the weight by a pin, and their range of motion is dictated by that machine. What they can move 12 times in 1 minute would be a good weight for them. If they could move it 20 times in a minute, it's probably too light. If they could only move it 6 times in a minute, it's probably too heavy. So for their goals, moving it 12 times in 60 seconds would be a good weight to be at. And then take a minute break to get to the next machine or go their next set on that machine, depending on how much they have available to them, making sure they're hitting all their different body parts. And not avoiding walking, running, swimming, just that moving at a metabolism rate, just moving strong and steady, their own body weight.
This is why I like you, Bridget. We think the same. That's exactly almost word for word what I've told many of my female clients. And what would you say about cardio? Because that is still the prevalent philosophy that if you want to lose fat, you have to do cardio. Get on an elliptical and move it for 60 minutes every single day of the week.
I think that's great. You should be doing that. But don't neglect gaining muscle mass. You cannot live without muscle mass. You can live with muscle and fat. If you have fat alone, you will die. Or if you have not enough of everything altogether, you've got to have muscle mass to live a healthy life. You've got to protect your joints. You've got to be able to metabolize. You've got to have muscle mass. So you can get on your cardio wheel and do whatever you're going to do, 60 minutes, 5 times a week, 6 times a week. You also have to push some weight, whether it's your own weight in push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups, or whether you're in a machine pushing external weight. You've got to stress your muscles in that way as well as your heart and lungs.
Yeah, that's great. Most people don't want to spend 2 hours a day exercising. So when you tell them they have to do some weight training, they don't want to give up their cardio because they think that is the ticket. And I completely disagree. I think you can lose fat without doing any cardio. It's necessary to do it for health. I'm not saying don't do it, but I don't think that's where the focus should be. I think generally I recommend for most people to do 3 days of weight training, 3 days of cardio training, take 1 day off. So yep. There's your 7 days right there.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So Bridget, I initially wanted to have this interview a month or so ago, when this incident happened that I described, where this woman told me she didn't want to bulk up, and I had a conversation with her, and I thought it might be more meaningful coming from a woman who does have a lot of experience weight training herself and weight training other women. And I couldn't talk to you because you were out of town, and I didn't want to do a phone connection when you live so close to me. So we get much better sound quality with the handheld mics being in studio like this. And so I think our listeners would be interested in hearing where you were and what you were doing.
It was very interesting. I'm fortunate to have been included in a program through the International Olympic Committee. The program's called ICECP, International Coaching Effectiveness Certification Program. They accept international coaches and those who affect their sport at a national and international level. This year, I was fortunate to be included. I'm the first United States citizen to be involved, to be given a spot. We just got back home, all of us. There were 34 coaches, all international, all different countries, different sports, all Olympic sports, all summer sports this year. We spent 2 weeks at the University of Delaware with speakers coming in, normally 4 or 5 lectures every day on different aspects of coaching, athletics, or organization of athletics. After our 2 weeks at University of Delaware, we went to apprenticeship sites where we actually got to be under a master sport coach of whatever our sports were. Mine is the sport of weightlifting, so I was fortunate to go to after University of Delaware, I went to the USOC, the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and spent a week with the Olympic weightlifting coach there. Then everybody gathered again after their internships for 2 more weeks, and this was also again in Colorado Springs, with lecturers coming in and chances to go to sporting activities. Once that was complete, we completed all of our modules for those 5 weeks. We all go home to our own country. We're tasked with working on a project, much like a master's thesis. We find a gap in the literature. We address it. It has to support our sport or our country through sport, something that will be a benefit to others. If we do a good job in this 6 months after our coming back from the Colorado Springs Training Center, then we get a ticket to Lausanne, Switzerland, where we get to present our research, what we've been doing these 6 months, to the International Olympic Committee. If we do well there, we pass or fail in our presentation on our work. If we fail, we've just had a great experience, and it's no knock on anybody. If you pass, you get a pat on the back, or if you do really well, you pass with honors and you get a certification from the IOC. Wow,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you fail, do you get a second chance at any of it to redo it, or
no?
No.
You've just had a great experience. You've had all the luxury of all this benefit of all these experts.
That's great. That sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it after you pass?
Be a better me.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I can't really talk too much about my project yet, but my project is massive global impact. It's certainly outside of the United States, affecting more than just the United States.
I understand your need for not divulging too much, but is there anything you can say to kind of give us an idea of the sort of type of thing? Is it a new weightlifting technique, or am I warm or cold? Or I don't want you to say anything you don't want to say,
right?
But I'm looking at blank air here.
Sure. It's a model of competition that will primarily benefit small countries that are just developing, or countries that are quite remote. And it's applicable right now. I'll just be focusing on the sport of weightlifting, but it has applications well beyond the sport of weightlifting.
It's awesome. I can't wait to hear more about it.
Thanks.
When will we be able to know all about it?
In April, I present it. So in April, it will go public.
So I'll have you back on the show
Yes.
after that?
Yes, when I come back from Switzerland.
Good. Now, really quick, I'd like you to back up a little bit to the sport of Olympic weightlifting. For those listeners that are unfamiliar with what this actually is. Can you give us some ideas of how this is a sport, what people do in this sport, and different types of lifts?
Yeah. The sport is just 2 lifts, the snatch and the clean and jerk. So a barbell is loaded on the ground. You grab it in a wider grip, like outside your shoulders, and it goes from the ground to overhead in one movement. You have to stand up at the very end. You could take it from the ground and immediately go to overhead in a standing position if you were able, but mostly the weights that people deal with are 2 times their body weight, and they go from the ground to overhead in a squatting position, and then they stand it up from the squat with the barbell overhead the whole way until the referee gives them the down signal, then they replace it on the platform. That's the first lift.
Wow.
The second lift is the clean and jerk. When they hold the barbells loaded on the ground, they're in a similar posture, but their hands are closer. They're bent at the knee. They're squatting down. They clean it up, which means they take it from the ground to their shoulders, so it's sitting on their chest, up by their collarbones. They stand up, and then in a second move, they dip and drive it overhead. So they receive the barbell now overhead with outstretched arms standing. Again, they hold until the judge gives them a down signal. They replace it to the platform.
Okay, so in the Olympics, in the Olympic weightlifting, you're not getting guys standing there doing bicep curls or push-ups or bench press. They're just doing those 2 moves.
Just those 2 moves. It's a heavy weight. It's speed strength, explosive strength. You move a whole lot of weight as fast as you can. You can't do weightlifting. You can't do snatch and clean and jerk slowly.
Mm-hmm. Got to use momentum.
Yeah. And the snatch is basically it's 2 times body weight that people do, and clean and jerk is based on a 3 times body weight at the elite level. It's not where it starts.
Wow.
It's where it ends. Yeah.
I don't know that I could do that with my own body weight.
Yeah. It's a process, and it's a specialty sport.
Yeah.
There are people, you're a cyclist, others of us, we ride our bike to the donut shop and the coffee shop and we noodle along. It's a whole different sport when you put your head down and you ride for 2 days, 3 days, or 1 hour really fast. It's just a different level.
Yeah, there's different levels to everything, and I've seen that as I've progressed up cycling from just, riding to school to racing, 500 miles. That's completely different. And then also the short races, the 1 hour races, are a completely different form of racing or riding a bike as well. And it's great to see. And so I understand the different levels of weightlifting and weight training. And there's, every sport you can kind of drill it down into its, finer skills. I could play tennis, but I'm nowhere near good.
Right. Just we do it recreationally.
Right. So Bridget, you make your living at coaching strength and conditioning and weightlifting, one word, right?
Yes.
How do you get your clients?
That's a great question. People find me on Facebook. There's just a lot of word of mouth that between athletes, between people. I've worked with grandmas. I've worked with little kids. People will say, you should get in touch with Coach Raach, or you should talk to Bridget because she knows what she's talking about. I had great result.
You don't go by B-Rock anymore?
Sometimes. Only special people.
I like B-Rock. Are you open to clients who live outside of this area?
Yeah, I do. I have, I work with somebody right now who's in Ohio. I definitely have people outside of Oregon, Washington.
Well, if somebody listening to this wants to get a hold of you and just maybe discuss you possibly training, coaching them, how would they reach you?
Trying to find me on Facebook with my name, and you can link my name, right?
Yeah, I will have your
spell
information. I'll have your information on the show notes page, so you can always go to livefitpodcast.com and look up Bridget Raach.
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 Yeah, that's right. Facebook or email. I'll give you my email, and people can reach out that way.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Bridget, for your time. I appreciate your insight, a woman's side of weightlifting and weight training and resistance training.
I like that. A woman's side of weightlifting.
The woman's side of weightlifting.
Maybe I'll have to start my own podcast.
There you go. I like it. I'll listen. All right. You have a great day.
Thanks, Glenn.
Bye.
Bye.
Good stuff. Good stuff by Bridget Raach. I want to be sure to let everybody know that Bridget created a special women's weight training workout, and you can have it for free just by going to livefitpodcast.com, episode 63. You can download a free women's workout at livefitpodcast.com. If you enjoyed this show, please do me a favor and share it and subscribe. I have a goal of helping 1 million people find fitness, and you can help. Sharing this episode and my mission will help me convert others to finding fitness and making health, good health, and fitness a part of their life. Once again, livefitpodcast.com. Thank you, and I'll talk to you next time.